Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Luke Refke here. Today, I'd just like to share with you an experience that I recently had. Not such a good one. Kind of give you some information, and the reason being is to raise awareness and just hopefully help people out who might be in a similar situation, or maybe thinking about buying a house, or I guess if you're thinking about buying a house, then the second variable would be you're thinking about buying it with a big mortgage through one of the mainstream companies, just like most everybody does. Usually, the first time they buy their house, a lot of times people buy several houses this way, and this was actually the second one I bought, and lost it here about a little over 6 months ago, about 8 months ago, something like that. And had a terrible experience with the mortgage lender. They would tell me, basically give me false hope on one end, saying that, we're working with you and trying to help you out, and there's all these programs and all these options, and there's a way to help you, and, jumping through their hoops. And they were lying to me. They would say one thing, and then it wouldn't work that way, and then they would tell me, just kind of string me along, and like I said, give me false hope. And so I didn't really want to necessarily come out with this right away, but I decided that I'm not really doing this out of anger or resentment to the people. I'm just trying to raise awareness and help other people so that maybe they can have a little jump on the game and not be so blindsided like I was. I did have an attorney represent me, and that helped out a lot. We weren't able to keep the house, which would have been nice. I was able to get maybe about 6 months worth of free rent, if you want to call it that, out of the deal, which really wasn't worth it at all. I didn't really want to move. I was forced to move. They worked out after the house got foreclosed upon, they worked out what's called a forbearance agreement with me to get caught up, because they stopped accepting my payments that I was actually paying, and I was getting caught up. But I was right at that mark, the 3-month mark, and I made a payment and a half. And then the next month, and I was actually communicating with them saying, I made a payment and a half this month. Next month I'm going to make another payment and a half, and I'll be caught up for a full payment. Over 2 months I'll be caught up one payment. And everything was fine and dandy. And the second one was just about, I think 4 days after the first, and they sent me the foreclosure letter. And I mean, it was a fast pace, really deceptive game after that, just to try to get my house. And I mean, they sounded so helpful at customer service, but the thing is that I should have never believed them. I should have done something different instead of just working really hard to try to get some extra money to pay the thing one way or the other. Basically, they were demanding full payment, and there at the end it was $10,000 for me to save the thing, and it just wasn't worth it. I mean, I had the money saved up, worked really hard. I got a full-time job making good money, and I was still keeping my retirement business going, my rental business. I had a few rental units, some shop, and a couple of roommates. That was the whole nother story, and that was challenging all in itself. But basically, when they stopped accepting my payments, when my forbearance payment was late, the first one was on time, and they marked it as being late, and I worked very hard to get them that. It was $4,000, four payments basically, and most of that went to the attorneys and the late fees and all the bullshit. And I think it was less than one payment, or it might have been just barely one payment went to my mortgage, and of course most of that was interest anyway. And so then the second forbearance payment was late, and they knew it was going to be late, and they said it was okay as long as it was due on the 22nd or the 20th or the 22nd. And basically they said, well, if you get it to us by the 1st, it'll be okay, just like you were never late, no big deal. But if you get it to us after the 1st, we're going to have to tack on a late fee. And so that gave me a lot of relief, because I knew I was on thin ice at that point, and I just made that big payment to him, and almost none of it went to me. The next one, it was $2,257, and it was going to go mostly fully to my getting caught up with my mortgage. And so what happened is, I was like maybe 4 days later, and I've got it all documented. I've got the thing documented how I was on time, and I wired them the $4,000 on time, and they marked it late. And then I went and told them about it, and they didn't really, yeah, they acknowledged it, but they didn't really do anything. They didn't mark that as, yeah, that's not a good reason for us to, kick him out of the program, because he really wasn't actually late. It's our mistake. They didn't ever on the record acknowledge that they'd made the mistake. So on the second payment, that already looked bad on my part, and there was in no way, shape, or form connected to me. I made it within an hour of the deadline, and I wired it to them, and I have the receipt for that. Excuse me. So the next thing is okay, the second payment was a little bit late, and they told me, as long as you if you're a little late, you're going to be charged a late fee. Well, I was a little bit late, and then I was waiting to hear from them on the late fee. Well, they called me 3 weeks later and said, oh, well, we couldn't accept your payment. It's available for you to pick it up at Western Union because it was late. So, and the whole time I'm thinking everything's okay, and I'm saving up for the third payment, which was supposed to be the final payment. But then I can't quite remember all the details right now, but the whole agreement, when they had me on the phone, they were hardballing me to try to get me to pay all of it up front. And then they said I made too much money, which it makes no sense, because I didn't make that much. And obviously I wasn't making too much, but I had just gotten the job, and before I was self-employed, just barely making ends meet. And I called it a retirement business earlier. It was kind of, being a landlord's not really a hourly job. It's more of a sort of a retirement business. But anyway, it was a learning experience. So I went this morning and dug up some information on my mortgage company, former mortgage company, Aurora Loan Services. And I probably should have done this before, but when you're working 50 hours a week trying to save your house, things get a little crazy. And I had an attorney represent me, and he said basically that it's a shady game, and you're probably going to lose your house because they pull out every little dirty trick in the book. So I'll show you what I found here. Aurora Loan Services, Better Business Bureau review. Alright, it's not an accredited member. None of the locations are accredited. And they've got 273 complaints. 196 are about the product or service. Not surprising. 69 are because of collection issues. Alright, and so I googled Aurora Loan Services Better Business Bureau, and that was just one of the Better Business Bureaus. So if you Google Aurora Loan Services, their website's the first. This is just some information. Basically 3 out of the 10 were positive, and all the rest of them were negative. And some of these here I pulled up. Let's see, pissed customer Aurora Loan Services, Consumer Affairs. Happy New Year, but not to you, Aurora Loan Services. Whoops. I didn't actually mean to click on that. So here's some things here. Aurora Loan Services keeps lying to us and saying we don't have insurance when we do. Fraudulent escrow charges. Revised an escrow payment of $150 per month. I don't know quite what that's about. Trying to charge me for late payments when they received my payments through auto debit. Not willing to waive late fee for late payment when it was not my fault. Annoying phone calls. Waiting 2.5 years to clear title issue purchased from Aurora. Failed to pay my insurance. Aurora are not honest. Aurora is abusing its customers. Aurora sucks. So there's basically, I don't know how many complaints here on this one website about Aurora Loan Services. 7 pages. 198 complaints just on the one website. Pissed customer. Alright, here's another one. This is the bailout watch thing that was on the Google page. And they received $411 million in bailout money. And also, they have had a class action lawsuit filed against them. Let's see. I can't quite remember what this is about. I skimmed through all this stuff all day long. Foreclosure process. Dragging people through the loan modification process and then just taking their house. So that's basically kind of what they did to me, in a roundabout way. I mean, I was the one that wanted the loan modification. That wasn't their idea. It was when they stopped working with me. Excuse me. They literally stopped accepting my payments 2 times. Oh, that's the one about they sold my private info to third-party companies. So this guy here, I read this earlier, he started getting a bunch of phone calls, and because Aurora sold his phone number to solicitors. He's received 75 plus unwanted solicitations. And they can't work on it because they're in a holding pattern. They're in the middle of a merger, is what happened. And this person's celebrating, but not because of Aurora Loan Services. Basically similar things to me. They said they couldn't afford it, and then they actually told me I made too much money for the Obama's Making Home Affordable program, the HAMP program. Housing Affordability Modification Program. That's what HAMP stands for. HAMP. Yeah, that's the one there. Okay. So, Aurora Loan Services, not really all the best company. And then here is their representing attorneys. And I don't know if this is just a coincidence or what, but for some reason it's all females. And the owners there in the middle in black, I mean, look at that. Dale and Decker LLC, law firm located in Englewood, Colorado, provides representation to banks, lenders, and mortgage companies specializing in Colorado foreclosures, evictions, and bankruptcies. So these people don't help consumers, they help the big banks. And the way they did it, I mean, like I said, just a few things. And look, I mean, look at how this one here looks. She's standing there with her legs spread, with their skirt on, and I couldn't help but notice. I mean, it looks like she's standing there trying to take a poop standing up. I mean, classy people right there, I tell you what. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you some stuff I found out a little earlier here. This is Alex Jones, and he's got Randy Kelton in studio, and I wish I would have found this stuff as I was going through this several months ago instead of just today. But here we go.
They can even take, and there's other law firms learning, other individuals learning, how to demand due process, how to not just be rolled over. And by everybody resisting, or even a small percentage resisting, that's already brought them to a grinding halt. Randy, on the document cam for prisonplanet.tv viewers, we're going to be going over these charts and graphs. We got a free video link. It's what everybody gets every day if they're a prisonplanet.tv member. Adds a whole new dimension to the show. What's this first graph we've got here?
This first graph is a graph of housing prices for the last 100 years. And you can see there was a rather large drop around the end of the turn of the century. The last two peaks, there was a peak in the 20s, a peak in the 40s, then it dropped down, and in the year 2000, the graph went almost straight up. And there's a reason for that. We can go back, and it's hard to see on the graph, but there's a drop down in 1907. And that drop down was caused because people were allowed to bet on stocks whether they would increase or decrease without actually purchasing the stock. That was called derivatives. It caused the stock market crash in 1907, so the legislature forbade it.
That's right here.
They forbade the practice, made it a felony, until the year 2000. The year 2000, they removed that restriction. So with the Glass-Steagall Act gone and government oversight of the lenders is non-existent.
So I just wanted to pause this real fast. Basically, Glass-Steagall Act, they made the derivatives or whatever a felony right here. And before, the bankers were making a lot of money, and then all of a sudden they weren't making so much, and the housing prices didn't go up. And then all of a sudden, what was a felony from here to here all of a sudden wasn't a felony anymore, so then drove the market up. So if that's not a pre-planned implosion of America, I don't know what is.
They essentially unleashed the money changers on us, convincing everybody to do the one thing that had always been forbidden, and to speculate on their home, and to take their good, stable loans in which they were building equity and trade them in for speculative loans that they would possibly make a lot of money on. But in the end, something else could happen which they didn't tell them about. And the easiest way to visualize is turn that graph upside down, because that's what has actually happened to the lending industry. That's a graph of property sales, which reflects property prices. We'll get prices in a second. But since 2008 is where the graph starts down, or that was 2007, it starts down. This one ends at 2008, and it's done nothing but get worse since. Let's go to the one in the back, this one. This is an indication, this is a graph of percent homeowners with mortgage negative equity by state. The very first state there is Nevada. From Nevada, we go to Arizona, Florida, Michigan, California. Michigan, if you go to Detroit, it looks like a war zone.
We've been there. It looks like I mean, I can't even describe it. It looks like one of those movies where everybody's dead on the planet, kind of like I Am Legend or something, and there's just nobody there.
Nobody there. This is going to happen even more. What's happening right now is the banks are foreclosing on so many homes, they can't sell them. They have to take them back. They can't sell them into the market because it'll drive the prices of housing down so much that the housing industry will collapse completely. They already have every state with a good number of people upside down on their mortgages. If they repossess these houses and then put them back out there for sale, this graph will increase exponentially. What we're looking at is a major housing shortage very soon. While nobody's building houses now. All construction is ceased. The only construction that's going on is what's already been funded. Can't afford to build houses now. I have a number of friends, construction industry, it's completely shut.
No, it's down by over 90%.
And I can definitely attest to that, agree with that. That's the business that I was in when I was making my house payments and doing great. I was in the construction business, and when it died off, that's when I had to change things up and try to replace my income, and haven't been able to do that yet.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you.
Or if they do give you a modification, it's supposed to lower your payments for a period of time and then come back up to where they were. It lowers your payments for a period of time and then they triple. Miss one payment after modification, they foreclose instantly. It's all a setup to force you into foreclosure.
It's a way to get you to waive your rights.
Yeah. The only way the lender makes the big money is to foreclose. He don't care about your property. Derivatives. He'll make 8 to 10 times the amount of your principal if he forecloses. All he wants to do is foreclose. After that, everything in this becomes a liability to him. And that's where we have an advantage. That's where we can take him to task and do something to stop all of this. The courts are turning against him because the politicians are in trouble. All of this is working to our benefit. If we're going to change, if we don't do something quickly, this country will be forced into, by far, the worst depression it's ever seen. Because all of these sales of the security instrument with no hard trace of where they've been creates property nobody can invest in. When we can't get foreign investment, there's no way for us to come back out of this depression we're going into. So we need to stop as many foreclosures as possible. Everybody here needs to stay in their houses. And the best way to do that is to sue them. The attorneys that were on before. Win, lose, or draw. You sue them, you win. They're going to lose, even if they win the house in the end, which is becoming very unlikely.
No, they're losing them. They're failing because once they get into depositions, they go, yeah, we don't have the deed, or we didn't review the documents, or we charged too many fees, or, yeah, we sold this over and over again. I mean, and then they're dead.
Yes, we put together a program to help people get into court. Just sue them. The first one I did, someone came to me, you got to do something, I'm going to be thrown out in 3 days. I went on the internet, I used my most honed skill, plagiarized, I pulled down a bunch of suits with issues that matched this guy's issues.
That was, what, 2.5 years ago?
Last November.
I've heard you for years talking about it.
I've been researching it, and they found out I was researching it, and they actually got me doing this before I was ready. So we're finally getting all our pieces in place right now. But this guy, I just put together a suit, and frankly, it was junk. He's still in his house. He filed this junk suit, and just 2 months ago, the lender came to him and said, well, you sued the wrong person. You should have sued this guy.
And folks can contact you at Mortgage Crimes with an S, right?
Yes.
MortgageCrimes.com to find out more. We'll be right back to break this down. Stay with us. Okay, I see your phone calls.
Alrighty. So there's that part. MortgageCrimes.com. I think they said there doesn't look like there's a link on this page. Guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. Here's some more very important information.
Before the end of Glass-Steagall that made all this a felony, because we'd been through this before, before that, none of this was going on. Great points, George. We're going to go to Mark and others in a minute, but tell us about this chart, securitization flow chart.
Yeah, this shows how the security instrument moves, how the money moves, how the documents move. The primary importance of this one is how complex it is. Attorneys, they don't have time to do the research. We have about $100,000 invested in research on this.
And you're now all over the country advising law firms. I mean, you're meeting with lawyers.
Yes, because they don't have time to do all of this. I'm also building a litigation engine, a computer program that never forgets any of this.
Okay, so go over this graph. Where do I start here?
So we start with it's hard to tell from the graph because it starts with the loan broker. The loan broker brings a real estate agent will bring you to a broker. The broker will find you a mortgage company to write your note. Well, what you don't know is he always finds the same one because he's in bed with him. And the loan broker pays the agents who bring them the note extra fees. According to the HUD-1 settlement, according to the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, the commission for bringing in a loan can be no more than 1% of the principal, but they never come away with less than 2 or 3%. They pay them that under the table to bring them loans that are more expensive. They pay the agents to breach their fiduciary duty to the borrower and upsell the note, convince him that he only qualifies for a much more expensive loan product than he actually does. The very first item there, the mortgage company, he appears to be a mortgage company, but he's really not.
That's this?
That's that. He only appears to be because way down at the back, the last one on the top, the investor who buys from, this whole process, in order for the security instrument to get to the final investor, it has to go through 4 steps. The aggregator, the special purpose vehicle, that's where the loans are put together. It appears from our research that they are actually the owners of the mortgage company. So it appears as though the mortgage company sells the note to the aggregator when in fact they're one and the same company. They've all set this up so they can run through these different mechanisms.
And then they gave the word, hey, realtors, local loan originators, everybody's allowed to do this. Tell people to lie to originate the fraud down at the bottom when the person gets the loan.
Yeah, they create the mortgage company that does the fraud, then they bankrupt the mortgage company, so he appears to disappear.
Continue a live coverage tomorrow of all the election fraud. I've told Steve Watson, Paul Watson, Aaron Dice, Kurt Emo full time just to cover all the voting machine fraud nationwide, the troops not getting their ballots, people being indicted all over Florida, you name it, for election fraud. I mean, the good news is this corruption's been here for a long time, but now it's coming up to the surface. And a few dozen law firms and a few hundred pro se litigants have brought the mortgage fraud to its knees. What will happen as more people get educated? And it doesn't mean you're going to win every time, but by resisting, you got a better shot at it. And better systems and ideas are being developed through the law to defeat these people. And you can find out more at mortgagecrimes.com with what Randy Kelton's doing. Just like earlier, I had the ICE legal on who's been beating them and having big effect, one of the first to successfully do it in the last 3-4 years. We had them on. We're going to have more people on because I want to help people. That's our mission. Just like read the insert on a flu shot. Says it can brain damage you, sterilize you. I feel good at night warning people about that, and it all came out we were right last year. Or sodium fluoride can give you cancer. Filter your water. Or they're after our Second Amendment. Here's the legislation. Or they're trying to pass amnesty. Here's the legislation. We're just here to alert you that, hey, here's the University of Exeter, big report, research proves gender-bending chemicals like bisphenol A affecting reproduction, feminizing boys, hyper-feminizing women, causing cancer. We're just here warning you, telling you what's going on. Kind of like you're driving down the road and 70 miles an hour through the country, and you see a sign saying 20-mile-an-hour turn. If you don't slow down, folks, you're going to go flying right off the edge. And, here's the deal. We're all in this together. When you warn your neighbors, when you warn your friends and family, when you buy my books and videos and support us and get tools like Fall of the Republic, an invisible empire that show people who really runs things, we're identifying the crooks so that as things get worse and worse as they've planned, they won't be able to pose as our saviors and get even more power. They're going to go to prison. And look how far we've come passing a bill this year to audit the Fed. Sure, they butchered it in the Senate. But we've gone from Ron Paul with no co-sponsors 15 years ago to passing bills. Now the globalists are identified as the criminals, as Zbigniew Brzezinski admitted 4 months ago. Humanity is awake and staring at them. We're identifying the bad guy. And as G.I. Joe says, knowing the bad guy is half the battle. That's why they told us Homeland Security was for guys with turbans on their heads. Now they admit it's for us, because they're the bad guys staging the terror attacks as a pretext to come after us. And they're coming after us militarily, economically, psychologically, spiritually, medically, physically. And this is one big area, financially. Because money is a symbol of energy, and that's how they buy up the whole world for nothing out of their fraud, as Thomas Jefferson said. And we're waking up homeless on the continent our forefathers conquered. Now, going back to Randy Kelton, I want to get to these calls as quickly as possible.
Alrighty. It's probably getting long enough. There's plenty of information there. You know, that, and my little personal testimonial. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you. Hopefully it doesn't ever happen to me again, because I probably won't ever work with a mortgage company like that again. Doing whatever I can to make sure I don't get into that situation again. You know, this is definitely an information war, and people need to wake up and just read between the lines and look what's happening in the world. I mean, yeah, I had fault in the matter. I was late on my payments, but the whole thing is you hear all the stuff is, oh, it's a relief program to help homeowners behind on their payments and this and that, and it's not. It's just a scam. It's just to give you false hope that they're going to actually help you and work with you, and they tell you that on the phone, and they're really nice. But if they lie to your face, that's really not being very nice. So that's basically. I guess I had one more thing that I wanted to show you here on Dale and Decker, attorneys at law. Let's see, staff right there. Okay, Tony Dale, managing partner. Click on that, and she's been doing this basically since 1996 in Hawaii, and she's moved all over from Hawaii, North Dakota, and Colorado, doing this very same thing. And also Holly Decker, same thing. She's been doing this since, it looks like, since 2001 in Colorado and in Washington State, and that's what they specialize in, is taking people's homes from them. And I really have no idea how people like this can sleep at night. They probably have to drink a lot of alcohol or prescription medication or whatever. Who knows? But there you have it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Hope this was informative. Peace, everyone.